Honestly, this film didn't really seem like it would be my cup of Greek mountain tea, but I hold to a firm position that there is no such thing as a bad movie, or at least one not worth studying to some degree. In fact, it's the mediocre, disappointing, and polarizing films that demand to be analyzed the most. And a lot of people, be they fans of the original musical or just your average moviegoer, have mixed feelings about 2008's Mamma Mia. God, my jersey comes out when I say that. Mamma Mia. Mamma Mia. I'm not gonna waste my time going over this movie's background, plot, and nascent cinematic universe, I guess, because that's all stuff you can look up. I'm gonna also try to stay away from the regular criticisms, like the shallow plot, the overall goofiness, or the poorly aged auto-tune singing. I'm just gonna say it. Yes, I was pressured to watch this movie. By my friends who love sing-alongs, by my musical worshipping family, who do you think gave me the DVD? But especially by my culture. As a Filipino, ABBA lyrics are inscribed on the gene sequences of my DNA. Like if you're Pinoy and you never sang one of these songs, Heineken bottle in one hand, karaoke mic in the other in front of all of your titas, no you're not. Hindi ka Filipino. Speaking of music, something that has always fascinated me is how we choose to film dramatic sequences that were originally conceived for theater, which basically means every time I watch a pro shot of a Broadway play or a movie based on a musical, all I see is Matrix code. Even though it's what some people complain about the most, I love that songs are used in place of an emotional reaction in this film. Take the scene where Donna realizes her past lovers have come for her daughter's wedding. Besides the lyrics of Mamma Mia literally fitting her mental state, almost like the plot was written around the music. It's a much more expressive way of letting her emotions interact with the scenery. Those great character moments are also reflected in some of the ensemble cast, and it's a much more interesting way of incorporating choreography that isn't basically filming a vacant dance floor. Except when they literally just do that. Mamma Mia likes to play around with what's diegetic and non-diegetic sound, sometimes to a comedic effect. It's implied numerous times that the music is both the characters projecting their development onto the scenery, and sometimes literally happening in the physical world. There's something very Bollywood about the camera work and editing in Mamma Mia as well. Musical films from South Asia are, in part, characterized by a few tropes that I thoroughly enjoy. The aforementioned main character starts dancing with an in-universe ensemble following suit. Quick cuts that accentuate the rhythm of the music, and long takes that really show off the environment and the ensemble. The experimental camera work here is just the cherry on top for me. Side note, if any of the musical nerds watching want to venture into Bollywood, this film, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, is a good start. A classic film to bounce off of and discover more. Now, where were we? I find a lot of criticisms of Mamma Mia to be pretentious, with some calling it sexist and reductive to women in the media, and others calling it a stupid rom-com because of their own sexism. If you're the latter, grow up. If you're the former, then sorry that this film isn't the feminist manifesto you seemingly want it to be. It's not the best representation of women, but it's far from the worst. Excuse the film adaptation of Mamma Frickin' Mia for just being a fun girls' night out movie. What were you expecting, exactly? A dissertation on the writings of Audre Lorde set to Swedish disco? I think many people with strong opinions on this movie gloss over a very important aspect of its making: the production design. Yeah guys, there are ways that movies can be artistically valuable without outwardly being introspective or deep with its messaging. Like maybe, just maybe, that's not all movies are. If you just wanted a good written story with no priority on visuals, you could read a book. Yeah, go to the library right now and punch the librarian right in the fuck. Shout out to production designer Maria Jerkovich, because this film has crazy good PD. The textures of the clothing and the fabrics that were chosen are aesthetically pleasing, if not dated by the standards of modern fashion. Especially in the scenery and the ensemble cast, the colors chosen are just so eye-catching and poppy. They really set some of the scenes on fire. The indoor sets also feel rustic and lived in, like an actual beachside town. For a film set in Greece that lacks a cast member who's actually from there, the clothes and the buildings are probably the most authentically Greek parts of the film. Oh yeah, let me get to that. I know it's not Mamma Mia's fault that this is so common, but we all know Hollywood, whether intentional or not, perpetuates stereotypes that negatively impact those depicted. On that note, as a Filipino of the Asian variety, I feel the need to formally apologize for Rob Schneider. Not for anything he's said, just in general. Greeks are not only constantly denied representation in their own mythology in Hollywood, but they are often the butt of many hack jokes, with depictions that would be decried as racist had they been made for any other ethnicity. Since I'm not Greek though, a lot of my context and understanding from this issue actually comes from Lambhoot's video, Why I Haven't Played Hades. The personal experiences he shares, being part of the Greek community in Quebec, is so eye-opening to a problem in media representation that you almost forget he's talking about a video game. Now, am I saying that Mamma Mia is a racist franchise? No. Am I saying that Mamma Mia the film could have done more than just relegate Greece to a backdrop, reduce anyone from there to a mute crowd of NPCs, setting it on a fictional island that's just the word for summer, and only mentioning the country's name once? Yes. Seriously, with ABBA alone, this movie is more Filipino than Greek. In many regards, as the makers and consumers of entertainment, we need to do better than this. Unless you're from a marginalized or underrepresented community, then you don't understand how bad it stings to see your people denied a relationship with their own culture on the silver screen. And if you're gonna call me a virtue-signaling woke scold for this take, then chamoti manasu. Finally, I want to talk about the world Mamma Mia is set in because it's very unique when compared to other films of its kind. Like I said before, a lot of people's problems with this movie is how reductive it is towards its female characters. It's a trope of some rom-coms to boil the women down to the most bland, clean slate voids for the perceived audience to project themselves onto. All that being said, I love Meryl Streep's character, Donna. Mamma Mia is sort of a character study if you think about it. Sophie, a young woman who's about to be married, discovers the many lives her mother lived through the people who lived it with her. Those lessons are communicated to her in a way that Donna never could, bringing them closer right before she goes off to become her own person. It's nice to see so many aspects of an older female character expressed in this way, especially with how much our society favors younger, newer actresses with star power. Not that Meryl Streep isn't beautiful. It is, however, somewhat unfortunate and a product of Broadway Hollywood sexism that it's done through the eyes of three men. But in universe, however, Mamma Mia is this parallel dimension where patriarchy either doesn't exist or is not nearly as influential on these women's lives as it would be in the real world. Maybe it was the scene where Donna skips through the island, a horde of local women in tow, pulling them away from their gendered and familial duties to dance to ABBA on the docks. Also, spoilers for the ending, but the men who could potentially be Sophie's father all agree to share taking care of her from now on at her wedding. I'm sorry, what? Look, maybe I'm just gay, or maybe I'm just gay, but this is a queer, non-traditional family unit and you cannot convince me otherwise. But that begs the question, is this harmless, escapist fantasy, or a symptom of a deeply problematic aspect of our society? Do we have space in entertainment to make art that doesn't directly address any issues, and even almost pretends like they don't exist? I want to leave it there with an open dialogue because these questions don't really have an answer right now. Let's be honest, y'all don't come to my channel to get a concise rating on a film. You come to my channel when you want to find out that a bad Christmas movie is somehow about Cold War tensions and a fleeting sense of worldly innocence. So instead of ending with 4 stars, check it out, I'm gonna say, as someone who studied filmmaking, I believe we need to accept that every movie is in part about sex and gender, race, ethnicity, power dynamics, superstructures. It's just a question as to what extent and how obvious it is. But in my opinion, the more subtly it manifests, like in Mamma Mia, the more ingrained in our culture it is. And what does that say about us? But hey, it's also just a fun musical, so screw 'em if they can't take a joke! You are the man.